Whoa.
一人の力などたかが知れている。
Wow. Oh, the snap.
ならば私は自分で守れるだけ。ほんのわずかでいい。大切なものを守ろう。下の者がさらに下を守る。小さな人間なりにそのくらいはできるはずだ。
ネズミ山かよ。ってことはだ。この国丸ごとみんな守るにはネズミのてっぺんにいなきゃならねえな。
Ascend to the top.
私一人の力であそこに登り詰めることはできない。
Right.
その
Right.
自信がある。
何を威張ってるんだお前は。面白そうじゃないか。一口乗ってやるよ。お前の青臭い理想がこの国をどう変えるか見てみたい。
大佐、
Whoa.
何か夢を見ておられたようですが。
何？つまらん思い出だ。
Separate destination.
で、こいつに蹴られた後はもう覚えてない。
魂のみの守護者、貴重な人柱、生かされている。
ウロボロスの入れ墨に賢者の石の錬成人、マルコー氏曰く石バールでも石が使われていた。
おい君たち、鋼の錬金術師君の病室は
おー
ここかね。
はい、ここで。
Yeah, that's right.
失礼するよ。
キンブラッドレイ大将と。
ああ、静かに。メロンは嫌いかね。
ああ、どうも。
軍上層部をいろいろ調べているようだな、アームストロング少佐。
はあ、いや、なぜそれを。
私の情報も甘く見るな。
Yeah.
賢者の石だね。どこまで知った？場合によっては。冗談だ。賢者の石の研究をしていた者の名簿か。この者たち
Interesting.
全員行方不明になっているぞ。第五研究所が崩壊する数日前にな。敵は常に我々の先を行っておる。
Yeah, that's been a running
そして私の
theme.
情報ももってしても、その大きさも目的もどこまで敵の手が入り込んでいるかもつかめていないのが現状だ。君たちは信用に足る人物だと判断した。これ以上この件に首を突っ込むこともこれを口外することも許さん。誰が敵か味方かもわからぬこの状況で何とも信用してはならん。軍内部すべて敵と思い慎んで行動せよ。
This wasn't just.
時が来たら君たちには存分に働いてもらうので覚悟しておくように。
Yeah, it wasn't just a courtesy for him to come see.
仕事をこっそり抜け出してきたのでな。ではさらば。
エダー、あれ、どうしたのみんな。
いや、嵐か。
ダブリス？
ああ、あるとも話し合って。
Double it.
先生のところへ行こうってことになってさ。
Yes.
やっぱ怖いよ、兄さん。僕たち、きっと殺されるよ。
I saw her in the last episode, a glimpse of her.
なんだ。
ここよ、ここ。ダブリスの手前。オートメイルの戦士、ラッシュバレー。一度行ってみたかったの。連れてって。
I love it. I love it.
まあまあ、いいんじゃない？ついでだし。
しょうがねえな。
ありゃいい嫁さんだぞ。君に言うな。まあ、うちの嫁さんほどじゃないけどな。
Bit of foreshadowing there, perhaps.
でもなるべく早く帰ってきちゃうぞ。
Alicia-chan.
自分の家だと思ってさ。それと、
Good man,
あいつらにもよろ
Hughes.
しくな。
パパ頑張ってね。いってらっしゃい。あ、 なんで急に先生のところへ行こうなんて思ったの？二つ目は
賢者の石について先生に聞く。
真実の奥のさらなる真実、結局分からずじまいだからね。
短い人生だったな。
せめて彼女だけでも作っておきたかったよ。
あんたたちの先生って
Yeah. I'm excited.
北も西も暴動だ、国境線だと。
あっちもこっちも死体の山か。そのうち国家転覆するんじゃ。リオール、各地の暴動、賢者の石、材料は人間。イシュバールで俺たちがやっ
A
た。
lot of life.
おいおい、どこのドイツだ。こんなこと考えやがるな。早く体操塔に。
はじめまして、ヒューズ中佐。それともさよならの方がいいかしら。
Oh no.
Fullmetal Alchemist. Fullmetal
Wow. How
Alchemist.
about that?
知りすぎたわね、ヒューズ中佐。
Yeah, you just kind of figured it out, didn't he? Oh. No. Whoa, headshot. But something tells me she'll be just fine.
こっちのセリフだ。
悪い、邪魔したな。
コード確認しました。しばらくお待ちください。
早くしろ。
Oh god.
受話器を置いていただけますか、中佐。
ロス少尉
Wow.
じゃねえな。誰だあんた。
マリア・ロス少尉です。お忘れです。
Oh, it could be envy
いや
or
違う。ロス少尉は左目の下に泣きぼくろがあるんだよ。
はあ、そうだっけ。うっかりしてたよ。頭の回転が速いばっかりにとんだ災難だったね、ヒューズ中佐。
おいおい、勘弁してくれ。家で女房子供が待ってるんだ。
come home
ここで
safe.
死ぬわけにはいかねえんだよ。
いい演出だろう。
Wow.
そったね。
私だ。娘自慢なら聞かんぞ。
Not this time.
ヒューズ。
Wow, I'm kind of shocked right now. I did not expect.
愚かだよね。無駄なことに命かけちゃったりしてさ。
Wow.
早く帰って約束。
Wow.
グレイシアさんってすっごく料理上手なんだ
That
よ。
she is.
知
That
っ
she
てるよ
is.
前に作ってもらったキッシュもすっご
Ha.
いうまかった。
Alphonse is gonna try that later. It's on his
体を
list.
取り戻したら食べたいものリストにちゃんと入ってるもんね。
作り方教えてもらったからアルの体が戻ったら焼いてあげるね。やったー。ヒューズさんもグレイシアさんもすごくいい人だった。
仕事が忙しいって言いながらしょっちゅう見舞いに来やがんの。
今度何かお礼をしなきゃね。
Oh man. Wow, this is.
ママ、どうしてパパ埋められちゃうの？
エリシア、
そんなことしたらパパお仕事できなくなっちゃうよ。
エリシ
パパお仕事いっぱいあるって言ってたもん。やだよ、埋めないでよ、パパ。
Wow.
今、頭の中で人体錬成の理論を必死になって組み立てている自分がいる。あの子らが母親を錬成しようとした気持ちが今ならわかる気がする。大丈夫だ。
I don't know about that,
い
man.
かん。雨が降ってきたな。
いいえ、雨なんて。
いや、
Mm.
雨だよ。
そうですね。
軍法会議所で何かに気づき、署内で通信できたものをわざわざ外に出て私に連絡を取ろうとした。東方司令部の電話交換手は軍がヤバいというヒューズの言葉を聞いている。彼らの探し物は見つかったのかね。
いいえ、 何しろそれは伝説級の代物ですので。
そうか。ありがとう。ヒューズを殺害したと思われる者たちということは、相手は複数。ひょっとすると組織として動いている者たち。
Yeah.
大佐である私の命令であろうというわけにはいかない。ということは、私以上の者が少佐に口止めしているということ。軍上層部絡みと考えていいだろう。そしてエルリック兄弟の探し物、すなわち賢者の石だ。セントラルに転属したら上層部を探ってヒューズを殺したやつを必ずいぶり出してやる。
公私混同とはあなたらしくないですね。
こうも死もあるものか。大総統の地位をもらうのもヒューズの仇を討つのも全て私一個人の意志だ。上層部に食らいつくぞ。ついてくるか。
何を今さら。
Yeah, I was gonna say, of course she is. Wow. Man on a mission. Wow, that is... Wow. Maze Hughes dead. I did not see that coming. That's a major death. Major death. Right then. Yeah, that is quite the shocker. You know, in a story, in a show, an anime that has a lot of heart, it looks like I've lost perhaps the one who had the biggest heart of all, right? Maze Hughes. Yeah, that certainly caught me by surprise. I mean, you know, in hindsight, you look at the goodbye to his family. Yeah, major death flag. But the fact that it's so early on still in the story, yeah, you know, it just didn't kind of strike me as a death flag, right? I mean, it certainly is once you know, once you kind of go back and you go, yeah, you know, that goodbye, there's certainly quite a bit of time being allocated to that goodbye, even though they've already shown us just how much he loves his family and Alicia-chan, right? I mean, I'll get to Alicia at the funeral, but yeah, in hindsight, it's certainly a major death flag, right? A final goodbye, come home safe, the line of dialogue there. So, you know, in that sense, it's actually quite jarring, right? It's a shocker, but it's also quite jarring to see Maze Hughes die this early on. And, you know, that being said, there is a part of me that is a little bit frustrated almost by the fact that I'm not as sad as I thought I would be over the death of Maze Hughes, right? It's, you know, on one end, it's certainly quite sad. The thought of it is quite sad, right? Seeing these scenes play out, it is quite sad. But internally, as it's playing out and now after the episode, I feel like it should have had a bigger impact on me. It should have been a bit more impactful for me. You know, because as you know, many of you have been around for a few years now. You know, once I get into something, once I kind of become attached to the characters and their stories, their character arcs, yeah, you know, I really go all in. You know, I'm able to go all in, right? I'm able to feel for the characters. And yeah, losing a character that I like, it is usually quite an impactful experience for me. But this seems to be a rare situation that a character I really seem to like, right, has died, and I'm just not as upset about it as I should be, right? The idea of it, the notion of it, him not being in the story anymore, that's certainly sad, but, you know, I'm not feeling that. Yeah, so, you know, in my opinion, and of course, you know, I'll get into all of it. Of course, I have much to say about Maze Hughes and the things that played out and the impact his death is going to have. And I certainly feel like he is going to have a lasting impact on the story, on the characters of the story, on their trajectories, you know, on their character arcs. And you see, perhaps the most major impact is going to be his close friend, his dear friend, Roy Mustang, right? You know, just last episode, I was speaking of the bromance and how they're kind of there for each other, right? They have this really fun dynamic together. Roy Mustang's perhaps not as, you know, open about it, but it was clear even then, even before I watched this, that yes, he cares about Maze Hughes. You know, they've been together for some time now. And of course, there's quite an effective flashback. I mean, that's quite the cold open, actually. Quite a useful one, quite a needed flashback, actually. I thought that scene was really needed, for sure. I felt like it really added to that dynamic, the Roy Mustang and Maze Hughes dynamic, and then, of course, beyond that, his characterization, right? Roy Mustang, that is. And, of course, the part Maze Hughes plays in that as well. Right, here it feels like it's a catalyst, right? His death is certainly a catalyst for the things to come, especially once again for Roy Mustang, right? It's about to play a major part in his trajectory, right? In his character arc. You see the declaration of vengeance at the end there by Roy Mustang. That's yet another aspect that's been added to his motivations, right? Vengeance is certainly added to that list now, right? In that case, perhaps he might even have a better or some kind of understanding for the actions and motivations of Scar, right? But yeah, I don't want to deviate too much from my initial point. I'll come back to all of that. There's a lot of fantastic stuff to get through here. But I feel like this death came a bit too soon, right? I was, in my mind, I just, it wasn't even in my mind that he could just die in this episode, right? I mean, the moment Lust steps in, and it's a brilliant scene, isn't it? You see Maze Hughes' shadow, and then you see Lust and her figure, right? Projected onto the wall, her shadow, her silhouette. It's quite unmissable, isn't it? It's Lust. And I love the jarring nature of that. On one end, it's this really attractive silhouette that's being, tossed onto the wall as she steps in. Yet the audience also knows the appearance of that silhouette spells doom, right? It does, and it was a jarring feeling because it's Maze Hughes. I've seen her step in and take out some of these side characters, but now it's, this is the real deal. This is Maze Hughes. He's one of our own, right? So that was, yeah, I mean, the presentation is certainly quite fantastic. It is. And notice how Lust it takes a shot right to the forehead, right to the dome. And of course, that in itself tells you just how impressive of an individual Maze Hughes was. I mean, yes, it's been firmly established that he has this really kind and disarming nature about him, right? And I spoke of this in the last episode's discussion, right? Just last episode, I was so excited about Maze Hughes and his inclusion into this ensemble cast and the impact he's able to have on these characters. An episode later, I've lost him. So yeah, it's harsh, right? It's jarring for sure. But yeah, the fact that he was able to, just at a moment's notice, able to realize, okay, he's in danger. This person or this entity means him harm, right? There's nothing good that's about to come out of this, especially after noticing the tattoo, the ink, right? He even remarks on it because he knows, right? Earlier in the episode, they had all of those clues and hints and research, right? And they speak of the Ouroboros tattoos, Philosopher's Stone, human sacrifices, important human sacrifices, transmutation circles, all of that, right? That's established up front in the beginning. And of course, in that room, you have the Elrics, you have the big dude, the big homie, god damn it, Armstrong, who seems to be earmarked as well, right? I'll get to King Bradley for sure. I'll get to King Bradley. I mean, here in episode 10, I feel like I have a firm grasp on his role in this, or his intentions, or his angle, or his allegiances. But yeah, even even Armstrong seems to be earmarked, right? Because you see that Bradley noted and specified that, he knows that Armstrong is kind of looking into some of these high-ranking officials or military officials, right? I can't remember the exact term, but that was the gist of it. So Bradley knows about that. And like I mentioned, I don't think it was just a courtesy call on his end to come in and have a look at Ed, right? There's ulterior motives there. He kind of gets to read the room. He kind of gets to read the different individuals present in that room and the amount of things they might know as of that point. But yeah, I'll come back to that. And my thoughts on King Bradley, Fuhrer King Bradley, who has someone on his tail. He's had someone on his tail for some time now. Again, going back to that flashback, bit of a stare down, bit of a moment. Roy Mustang looking up at King Bradley. And again, that conversation that's taking place, Roy Mustang and Maze Hughes. And again, the visual depiction of King Bradley up top, right? As both Hughes and Roy Mustang are at the bottom, right? So it's quite the climb. And I thought it did a great job of even, visually depicting that. A mountain to climb, right? And it's not going to be easy. It's certainly a tough road ahead for Roy Mustang and his companions, including the ever-present Riza Hawkeye, right? Who's there by his side, always. And it was great to see them kind of have that moment at the funeral. Just those two and the late Maze Hughes at his grave, or them at his grave. Listen, I know I'm kind of going back and forth here, but as I'm on the topic, I might as well just keep going, right? That line of dialogue, that moment, it's raining. It looks like it's raining, right? And he sheds that tear, or sheds a few tears. I love the understanding they have. Hawkeye, at first, she's like, huh, no, it's not raining. But then she realizes, okay. But, they've established that rain kind of equates to him being useless, right? His alchemy almost being useless, right? He is the Flame Alchemist, after all. But, here you see the meaning behind that. Him saying, I suppose it serves multiple purposes, right? First of all, yes, his tear, right? Tears in rain. It's one of those. In fact, I think if it actually was raining, it could have been quite effective as well, right? Oh, look, it's raining, but then also show us a tear flow down his eye. There's a moment like that earlier, a few episodes ago, as Alphonse, right, in his suit of armor, there's a moment as it's raining, and then the tear, or not, I confused it. It's a raindrop going down his face, but then, of course, artistically, the way it's depicted or animated, it looks like a tear going down his eye, right? So yeah, even if it actually was raining, I think it could have been really effective, right? Tears and rain. For those who know Blade Runner, it's one of the greatest moments of all time in film, in all of film, right? Roy Batty's monologue. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Yeah. So yeah, in that sense, even that could have been effective. But the fact that he's saying, oh, look, it's raining. Yeah, you kind of read into that, and you see that he's, at that point in time, he might be at his lowest, feeling quite useless, quite ineffective, quite powerless, right? As he does in Rain. So yeah, it's great stuff. It really is great stuff. But let's go back to Maze Hughes and this impressive individual that he is, right? He's quite effective out there in the field once needed, and it was needed, right? And you see Bullseye, of course, that throwing knife right to the dome, right in the middle of the forehead, does absolutely nothing to Lust, and that's not shocking, right? I've seen these sins kind of take devastating blows or killing blows even, and kind of just act like it's just a minor annoyance almost, right? So yeah, it's already been established, and it's been clear that they're not human, right? These entities are something else entirely. But beyond that, you have Envy, who's straight up saying, "You humans," right? So if there was any doubt before, you have a character itself, one of the sins, kind of speaking it out loud, right? You humans, you risk your life or lives for the most pointless things, as the blood seeps over that photo of his family. And I was talking about him being this disarming, lovely individual, a family man, a great husband, a great father, the best father, essentially, right? It's quite the contrast if you go back to his Show Tucker. Yeah. This man was meant to be a husband and a father, right? He excels at that, but he also excels at being a part of that military, being a part of that, establishment. He's got the skill set. And notice how it's one of those cases, right? He was too smart for his own good. He put things together too quickly for their liking, right? As Envy also pointed out. Essentially, he was about to blow open the lid on all of this. Based on the presentation of it, it looked like he figured it all out, right? He's in there in his office, and something clicked, right? He's taking all of this information in, and it all clicked. Uprisings, bodies are piling up, the ingredients being humans, right? For the Philosopher's Stone, it all clicked, right? He's quick, he's sharp. Unfortunately, too sharp for his own good. He seems to figure it all out. This big conspiracy that's been going on, that's under wraps, that seems to have roots within the military itself, right? At the highest position even, right? I'll get into that in a bit. He had it figured out, didn't he? He had it figured out, and they couldn't allow it. And notice how Lust somehow at that exact moment shows up in that room, right? Almost as if she was tipped off to be at that point, or be ready to take him out, that he needs taken out, right? To me, that feels like they've realized that this is a sharp individual, this is an impressive individual, and he is going to crack it, right? He is going to crack it. And that whole aspect of having eyes and ears all over the place. Actually, listen, before I, kind of beat around the bush and go any further, King Bradley, 10 episodes in, I've been talking about how he's kind of suspicious. He's quite interesting, that's for sure. And I actually do like him as a character, right? This eccentric king or Führer of theirs, King Bradley is his name, right? I like the character, but he's been highly suspicious. And all of that accumulates to episode 10. And at this point, I am sure he's in on it. I am sure that he is in with these sins, right? He knows about them. He's this insider. And didn't I mention that all the way back in episode 1 of this? The possibility of insiders, and then throughout the next 9 episodes leading up to episode 10, you see that they are hinting at there being insiders, it being an inside job. I think it would be a little bit silly at this point to ignore that King Bradley, the Führer, King Bradley, again, right at the top, the one who gives the orders, the one who gave the order to execute the execution of Ishwal, or he executed the Ishwalan Civil War, right? Put it into motion, yeah. And again, you have Dr. Marco, who's being told to research the Philosopher's Stone, and then again that immense amount of death, bodies piling up. It all comes together nicely, doesn't it? And to me, it almost kind of feels like Maze Hughes is almost kind of acting as an audience surrogate, right? It's almost kind of showing us that the audience should also kind of know these things that Maze Hughes knows now, right? That's the feeling I was getting here, right? That he's almost doubling as the audience member. So yeah, as of this point, I firmly believe he's in on it, right? He's a part of this. So if that is the case, yeah, it's about to be a really, really tough road ahead for Roy Mustang and companions, and for all of these characters, really, right? But like I mentioned, I do like him as a character. There's something quite intriguing about him, right? He also has this disarming nature. Again, that might be a front he's putting on, but you see that even he looked quite emotional at Maze Hughes' funeral. Again, good chance that could be a front. But yeah, seeing him jump out of the room to kind of lose his tail, or these subordinates that are looking for him because he kind of snuck out. There is something interesting about that character for sure. There really is. That's one of the things that I'm feeling 10 episodes in. Almost everyone and their story feels interesting. Even a lot of these side characters, supporting cast, right? I'm interested in all of their stories, right? It's not all about just Ed and Al, right? Of course, that's a fantastic story arc I'm on. But then you have Roy Mustang and Riza Hawkeye, right? And then you have all of these other fantastic supporting characters like King Bradley, Führer King Bradley, like the Sins, right? Um, it's a great cast. It's a great cast. And given the episode count of this, I'm glad that I feel like this at the moment, right? That I am interested in so many of these stories, right? And given the nature of this cast, given the size of this cast and the supporting cast, the ensemble cast, yeah, I can see how it requires that amount of episodes, right? It feels like there's quite a bit to get through. I mean, as of this point, 10 episodes in, if this was only like a 30 episode anime or 36, 37, maybe 40 episode anime, then maybe I would have been a little bit, okay, I don't know, man, there's a lot to get through, right? The Death Note problem, right? Death Note, at least the second half of Death Note, rushed, right? It needed much more. So, if this had an episode count of like 37 or 40, yeah, then I would have been a little bit uneasy here, 10 episodes in. But the fact that it does have that episode count, yes, exciting times for sure. But yeah, going back to Maze Hughes once again, you notice how at first he's trying to make the call from inside, but then he realizes, no, I have to go to the one person from a secure line, outside line, the one person he can trust in this situation. And of course, there's also the attendant that's there, right? She's innocent, so perhaps he doesn't want her to kind of be yet another target, right? Taken out. To me, it actually even felt like that Hughes realizes that the Fuhrer is not someone he can trust anymore, right? Earlier, he goes, oh, the Fuhrer needs to know. And of course, at that exact moment, Lust walks in, right? But yeah, he goes outside. But of course, the moment he steps outside, it's that's curtains, right? I thought, Lust going in there, that's going to be curtains, but he somehow, again, given how impressive he is, he somehow gets out of there after essentially firing off a kill shot, but again, he had no idea that he's up against these entities that are not human, right? His run-in with Envy is quite wow, it's quite the scene, isn't it? But notice how even there, almost instantly, he realized, no, that's not Ross. It's not, right? Again, he noticed that the mole is missing, so he's got an eye for detail. Quick, he's sharp. But, all of that, you see that his family, the love of his family, is also a reason that kind of ends up getting him killed. And, the sad part is that moment of hesitation as Envy pulls that dirty tactic, right, of kind of shifting into his wife, right, a doppelganger. You see that moment's hesitation cost him his life, right? Even though he knows that's not her. Yeah, there's still that, hesitation on your end, and that's natural. And yep, as expected, a few episodes ago, at the fifth lab, I mentioned in the discussion of that, Envy and this shifting ability, becoming a perfect doppelganger, that's going to cause a lot of problems. And I don't think that's the last of it. I'm sure I'm going to see that a few more times for sure. Though, of course, even Envy was prone to slip up, right? Forgot the mole. But not everyone is as sharp as Maze Hughes either, right? So let's kind of shift focus to the funeral itself. And the fact that he gets a proper send-off, to me, that feels so fulfilling. That feels so right. It's rare to see that type of send-off. It's usually just kind of like an off-screen thing. It's just assumed, right? But here you get a proper send-off from Maze Hughes, who raises 2 ranks in death in the line of duty, right? But Alicia, wow. She's so young. She's just a child. She does not understand the concept of death, the finality of death, right? She just doesn't get that concept. To her, it's just like, okay, this is just a thing that's happening. Now he's going to come out, right? But then, once once the dirt goes in, yeah, she starts to panic a bit. He needs to get to work, right? He has to get back home. How come they're doing this? Yeah, you see that before that, people like Armstrong are able to just kind of internalize it, because they've seen so much death. They've seen comrades pass on. They're used to this. They've seen a lot of death. They've caused a lot of death. And again, I'm not overlooking the fact that Roy Mustang and Armstrong, all of these individuals had a role to play in the Civil War. Yes, the orders came from the top, but they do have blood on their hands. And, I've spoken of this in one of my past discussions, and you see the role Roy Mustang had to play as well, right? But also in that sense, you see that even back then, he did not like the Fuhrer, King Bradley. He did not like how he did things. Clearly, he did not like that this order was passed down and that he was put in this position alongside some of his comrades to do some dark things. Mass murder, right? On that scale, wow. A lot of life up for grabs, like I mentioned. A lot of bodies piling up. A lot of crazy things going on there. But you see that, that really stung. That really got Roy Mustang. And you see since then he's had these grand ambitions to ascend to the throne, right? But I love that flashback because it was able to provide that characterization, a bit more of that, right? Kind of take us into his mindset. And I hope there's more of that, right? And I'm sure there probably is going to be more of that, the flashback approach, right? So in that sense, perhaps I am going to see Maze Hughes again through flashbacks. That's a common thing you see in a lot of stories, right? Because they still need to explore quite a bit. And you get to see that, this idea of ascending to the top and becoming Führer, right? It's not a self-centered thing either, right? He does want to protect the people, right? He does want to protect all the people under him. And that's another thing here, right? The thing that stings so hard, so much, is the fact that he was not able to keep that promise that, he's going to protect the people he cares for, people that are important to him. People like Maze Hughes, right? Again, it goes back to that Rain comment and him feeling so useless and ineffective. Yeah, it is a sad moment, but it's a great episode. Going back to the funeral, you see the juxtaposition there, kind of cutting back and forth. It's quite a jovial natured conversation inside the train. Wenry and the Alric brothers. It's, in a sense, it's almost as if they're giving this eulogy for Maze Hughes, the late great Maze Hughes. And they don't even know it. But, the presentation of it really made it seem like that, right? As it is cutting from them to the funeral as well. They're speaking of their feelings for Maze Hughes. Yes, at first, Ed is kind of going on about how he can be this annoying person who's always on his ass, who's always kind of checking in on him. But then he also realizes, that's a busy man, right? He has a lot of responsibilities, yet he always makes time for us. He always did, right? And that was clear since episode 1, right? As he's sitting on the couch really late at night, really thinking about these boys, these young boys, and the position they're in, right? The harsh reality they're living. So yeah, even the Alric brothers have lost a father figure in that sense. And yeah, it'll be quite the scene, them finding out about his passing, his death. And it doesn't feel like it's going to be anytime soon. So it's really going to build towards that, right? But I love the notion or the feeling I'm getting here that, Maze Hughes is not just going to be forgotten. Like I mentioned, I feel like he is going to play a big role in the lives of these characters, right? Like I said, he's a catalyst for Roy Mustang for sure. It's going to have a major impact on that character arc. It's kind of set Roy Mustang's character arc into motion, right? And, in storytelling, you see that a lot. The death of a loved one, the death of someone that is important, it usually is a catalyst. But yeah, kind of going back to Roy Mustang and Riza at his gravestone, you see that he also has an understanding for the things the boys might have been feeling. I mean, he certainly knows that feeling now, right? Because he himself is also thinking of human transmutation. The thought is running through his mind, right? And the fact that that thought is running through his mind should once again reiterate just how much Maze Hughes meant to him, right? That he's in that mindset right now, right? That he is thinking of something like human transmutation. But speaking of human transmutation, or at least, the strong possibility of it, let's kind of shift towards them being on that train in the first place. They're about to go see Sensei, the teacher, who I saw a glimpse of in the last episode. As of this point, I do believe she also attempted human transmutation And that is the reason she's able to do the same things Ed is able to do, right? Like Al mentioned, oh, you're able to do it just like Sensei or just like Teacher, right? You don't need to draw a circle, a transmutation circle. They're about to go see her, and yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense. You know, I just didn't even think of it, but she doesn't even know about this yet. That they attempted taboo, right? So you see that rightfully so, they are quite scared at the moment. They are quite, you know, nervous about facing Sensei. I feel like if that is the case, and she also attempted human transmutation, I feel like there is an opportunity there. Get something interesting out of this. You know, now that they've done it, and she's going to see the price they had to pay. So it certainly promises to be an exciting reunion, and I'm really, really quite excited for that, to see Sensei. And you know, speaking of price, that just reminds me, you know, I do believe that she also attempted human transmutation. It'll be interesting to see the price she had to pay if that is the case. I guess I'll see soon enough. But you know, of course, the childhood friend, the wonderful, the fantastic Winry is there as well. So you know, I love it that they're traveling together. It's beautiful. This is exactly the thing I was hoping for. And of course, there's meant to be a stop. You know, she's excited about stopping by in the holy land of Automail, apparently. So that should be fun. That should be fun. But yeah, you know, I am really quite excited about this trip they're on, right? And them meeting Sensei again, and Sensei finding out they perform taboo, right? I'm sure she'll, you know, I'm sure there'll be a lot of comedic moments of her actually being quite angry. But then, you know, once it all calms down, I think it is going to be quite a fascinating scene, given her potential background as well. But yeah, folks, that's about it for this one. Yeah, you know, children, they certainly suffer quite a bit in this anime. I mean, the harsh reality of it is on display, isn't it? You know, no one is exempt. You know, a lot of children go through some of these really rough times. You know, you look at the Elric brothers, you look at Nina, you look at Alicia now, yeah, and Winry as well. You know, let's not forget her. She's also had a rough childhood, lost her parents, you know. And then, of course, you know, years ago, she also thought she lost, or she's about to lose her friends, her childhood friends, right? So yeah, you know, like I mentioned, you know, yes, it has comedy, right? It intercuts and transitions to comedy for sure. And I still feel like it's quite effective at that. But yeah, this is, yeah, there's a lot of dark stuff in this, right? It deals with the harsh realities of the world and life. But yeah, you know, as of this point, anytime I see a young child, a young cute child, a young person, yeah, now I know, you know, I have to be ready. I have to be ready. But yeah, that's about it for this one. You know, it's a great episode. It's a great episode. Yes, a little bit jarring given the nature of Mace Hughes' death or the timing of it. Yes, you know, in that sense, I feel like maybe if this came 5 to 6 episodes later, you know, once I did have a bit more time with Mace Hughes, I think it could have been a bit more impactful. Listen, I'm only speaking for myself. You know, I'm sure for many of you, it still was quite emotional, you know, but I wanted to be really sad over the death of someone like Mace Hughes. You know, I wanted to be affected by that. I just feel like I wasn't, you know, and to me, that is a little bit frustrating because clearly the point of that was that it is meant to be impactful. It is meant to be an impactful death, and it is, right, in the sense of the story, but I'm speaking on like a personal level, right? It didn't hit me as it should, as it should have, right? And I feel like that's just because there wasn't quite enough screen time just yet, right? It's only episode 10. Yeah, so it could have used a few more episodes, you know, 5, 6 more episodes, more screen time for Mace Hughes, more of that lovely presence of his. That's about it for this one. Another great episode, folks. So if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you're interested in full length or perhaps even early access to the next episode right now, consider checking out the Patreon page, or also if you're interested in social media, Instagram, Twitter, if that's your thing. Links for all of those things are in the description, in the pinned comment. So, you know, consider checking that out. It does help the channel. Whew, okay, that's about it for episode 10. It does feel good. Like I mentioned, it does feel good. And yeah, it turns out episode 10 was quite a major episode in the grand scheme of things, right? It's a turning point. It is. It's quite the turning point, isn't it? Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited for this, to get to the next episode. So thank you for joining me, and thank you for your time, as time is precious. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.